Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today it's going to be catching up on a lot of the AI stuff related things that I've seen going on in and around the art community in like the last month. I kind of compile these as they come up so that I can bring the discussion to you guys because I can only see what I see, and if you guys see more stuff or can add to the conversation, it's always a pleasure, but I just want to keep on top of it. And I honestly should have done a video like 2 weeks ago because I have so much to get through now, but I wanted to take a break from that, and then I didn't want to do the AI generated video on Thanksgiving weekend, so here we are. So it's going to be pretty long probably. We have a lot of things to cover, so we may go over just sprinkle over things to get a general idea, but all of the articles will be linked down in the description below to get further context. And please let me know if you know more things, because one of the things that we're going to cover is Sam Altman was ousted from OpenAI. Sam Altman was somebody that I covered on the last AI generative video where he said that he wanted to replace the median human with a robot, and median human included doctors, by the way. So I'm not sure what his, measure is for median human. It just sounds like human, but he was the one that said that. So he was ousted, but then like within 48 hours he was in discussions for being brought back, and there were letters being signed and people were resigning en masse to bring him back. And so that happened very, very quickly, and I don't think that I have all of the details, so if you know more about it, feel free to share. But before we get started on the news, a couple of things. Number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through Lemoy, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt, you write a short story or a fragment using that prompt, and the first Monday video of the month, bask in your guys' creativity because you are insanely creative. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out, whether it is literature or a comic book. If you submit the first chapter and the cover in the comments down below to the feature, they will be read here on the channel at a random interval to hopefully help more readers find your work, to get it more exposure, because that is the hardest thing. And I want to share as many books as possible, even if I'm not the target audience for the book. And then the third thing is if you would like to check out any of my books, Judge Me. They're available anywhere that you get books, also linked down in the comments below. You can also find them on OneDrive and at your local library upon request. Before we get started on the topic of today, as usual, I checked the P.O. box, and if you guys send anything, I try to feature it here, especially if it's books, so people can see what is out there, what is in existence. And so today I have another package from John Stevenson. Thank you very much. And it looks like we've got more books from John Stevenson. Hard Times, canceled by John Stevenson IV, and Product 37 with Fables 3 of 2023. It's got a bit of a spicy cover with some, let's say, drugs on it. So thank you very much. Check these out from the comments down below. With that said, let's get into it. So with that said, let's get into the news. And is there a lot? One of the things that I needed to cover was the update on the writer's strike, because I've covered the writer's strike that was happening in Hollywood a couple of times now. And I find it very important to talk about because Hollywood literally wants to suck the soul out of everybody. So studios keep actors' strike going by pushing a truly horrifying AI deal. The AMPTP has doubled down on AI, a contentious issue within the ongoing SAG-AFTRA strike, with the latest final offer for the actors' unions. In the battle surrounding the use of AI, which even President Biden has now sided on, things are heated up to the AMPTP continues to try and secure performers' likenesses in perpetuity. The Hollywood Reporter was told by multiple union sources that SAG-AFTRA would not accept the AI clause included in the offer. Quote, "The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers is seeking to secure AI scans for Schedule F performers, guild members who earn more than the minimum of series regulars, $32,000 per episode, and feature films, $60,000. The company's suggested clause would require studios and streamers to pay to scan the likeness of Schedule F performers. SAG-AFTRA is seeking to attach the compensation to the reuse of AI scans, as AMPTP member companies would also need to secure consent from the performers. The language currently in the AMPTP's offer would see that the studios and streamers secure the rights to use the scans and decrease performers without the consent of their estate or SAG-AFTRA. Basically, while actors are alive, there are some consent across the board, but that ends when they have died, allowing the studios complete ownership of their likeness, which is truly some ghoulish villainy right there. This is the biggest reason SAG did not accept the last best and final offer from AMPTP. We would not allow the language to stand, a union source told THR. This is a massive, every A, B, C, D, E lister. All of the higher paid performers who think this is minimum wage strike, they must know that they are in this fight. They have to realize that this is about protecting them. This is their strike now that they realize what's on the line. As of Monday, SAG-AFTRA negotiations had responded to AMPTP's latest offer and sent the following message to the union. Quote, please know every member of our TV theatrical negotiation committee is determined to secure the rights and deals, thereby bring the strike to an end reasonably. There are several essential items on which we still do not have an agreement, including AI. We will keep you informed as this unfolds. So this is a very important thing, as it is securing the likeness, the artistic integrity, the individuality of the person. And anything of short is selling basically your entire being to be a slave, where you don't get paid for the work that is then your face is being used for. This shouldn't be something that is defended by anybody who is normal, working class, anything, because it's corporate ownership of your identity. I wouldn't think that there would be anybody who would really support this unless they were also corpos, but there are so many people, it seems, that are so angry at anyone in Hollywood that they're willing to side with the corpos to take away individual identity and create slavery out of people in order to own the Hollywood elites. It's really weird. So there's that. But it's not just that the SAG-AFTRA strike was going on, but it is now over as of November 8th. I just wanted to bring this up to show what the main issue was, or biggest issue was, that was holding them back, which is AI generative related. And so they say, we are thrilled and proud to tell you that today the TV theatrical negotiation voted unanimously to approve the tentative agreement with the AMPTP as of 12:01 a.m. November 9th. Our strike is officially suspended and all picket locations are closed. We will be in touch in the coming days. In contrast, let's see. In a contract valued at over $1 billion, we have achieved a deal of extraordinary scope that includes above-pattern minimum compensation increases, unprecedented provisions for consent and compensation that will protect members from the threat of AI, and for the first time establish a streaming participation bonus. Our pension and health caps have been substantially raised, which will bring much-needed value to our plans. In addition, the deal includes numerous improvements for multiple categories, including outsized compensation increases for background performers and critical contract provisions protecting diverse communities. Full details of the agreement will not be provided until the tentative agreement is reviewed by the SAG-AFTRA National Board. So keep an eye on the SAG-AFTRA. I cannot tell you if they've already released that or if they're still working on that, but it sounds like, one, they're going to have provisions for if your identity, your likeness is used for generative AI, then you get paid royalties, which makes sense to me, and that if you are used for streaming, they've also negotiated streaming contracts so you get paid for streaming, which is very strange that it wasn't already included in the way things were, but again, it's also not, because corporations try to keep things the same despite when things change to make them more money. So they keep contracts the same as if streaming is not a big part of things, to pay people less so they collect more money. Employers are generally not super helpful to taking care of their employees. And I can't say that there is not a reason why a lot of employees don't feel any level of employer loyalty at the moment, when it seems constantly that employers are trying to take advantage of their employees instead of taking care of them. So not all unions are bad, and often unions try to negotiate for better conditions, especially if that is actually what they are doing. Some unions are totally bad and are not necessary at all and screw people over, but other unions do try to protect the people who are part of them. And so I think that's what this is. This also ties into this tweet that I saw earlier that has to do with, hello world, I'm Ann Indiana and I am an AI singer-songwriter. Here's my first song, Betrayed by This Town. Everything from the key, tempo, chord, progression, melody, notes, rhythm, lyrics, and my image and singing is auto-generated using AI. Hope that you like it. So let's take a look at this for a second, just briefly. Other than the shape of her face.
Everything from the key, tempo, chord progression, melody notes, Rhythm.
Skipping through.
Alone in the streets, alone in my thoughts, thinking of all our favorite spots.
So my biggest question for stuff like this is, who is it for? We've had multiple conversations now about AI generated images, about AI generated books, and who exactly is this stuff for? Because personally, as somebody who likes to read to understand people better, to understand the background of people better, to understand how their interpretation of the world turns into the strokes on a visual medium, or the directions and the composition in photography, or the choices that are put in a story and interpreting other people and values. Like, I read and enjoy literature and movies and visual arts to experience the mediums of somebody's mind. You're not going to get Tim Burton through a generative AI. That is who he is, personality-wise, turned into something that he can give to somebody else. You're not going to get Quentin Tarantino from a generative AI. That is who he is, turned into visual storytelling, and then using the talents and the skills and the artistry of other people to tell a story and hand it to somebody else. All art is like that. And so who is asking for this completely generated, completely separated from humanity thing? This is just the extremeness of what the generative AI imaging is it is completely devoid of anything human. It is sterile, it is stolen, it is nothing. I personally love music that exceptionally feels a certain way. I love Get Scared, the band, for some of their songs. I don't love all of their songs, but some of their songs have just this ripple of emotion, and often what draws me to a song is the emotion behind it, is the imagery behind it, is very specific aesthetics behind it that draw me to want to listen to it, that give me some kind of vibe for characters and humanity. And so who is asking for this complete disconnect? I remember complaining years ago about how much is actually CGI now, when instead of doing puppetry and makeup and costuming, because it feels less human and more sterile when you're not in settings, when you're not actually interacting with other people. And I think that even so much reliance on CGI has lost that human touch in some movies and made them less interesting because you're not being in the moment as much. So if you have any idea who this is for, would you want a completely AI generated thing like this? Do you see a value in it, or do you just see something that is a corporate monster that is able to make money without paying people? Because that's all that I see. But let me know if you are the market for this, because I currently have no idea who this might be for. Moving forward, we've got Star Wars to Starfield. Voice actors hit out at Microsoft's AI decisions. If you want to start voice acting career, don't bother. Microsoft has introduced its latest AI efforts, which are capable of generating character dialogue, and it's got voice actors fearing for the future of the industry. On November 6th, Microsoft announced it had partnered with In-World AI to develop an AI toolset for studios that will empower creators in dialogue, story, and quest design. The new tool set will help developers generate things like scripts, dialogue, trees, quests, character dialogue, and more, threatening roles in the industry for writers and voice actors. Understandably, some voice actors have already voiced how problematic this could be. Now, all that you're going to get here, we've already been complaining about remakes and reboots and sequels, and the only thing that you're going to get by using AI generators to create your quests, to create your storylines, to create your dialogue, is you're going to literally get repeats of repeats of repeats. It's going to be the same thing with new skin. All these companies that already don't care about what they're selling you, that don't care about the story that they're giving you, that there is no story whatsoever anyway, they're just giving you product with no thought, with no care. And it's not going to be anything special. One of the things that I have been extremely grateful for in the last year is being able to play video games with you guys on Tuesdays and Sunday nights, and the different games that I've gotten to experience. There is no way that a generator could have created Disco Elysium. There is no way that a generator could have created Red Dead Redemption, because there is such grit, there is such humanity in the way that those characters are created and the story being told, and all you're going to get with games that are made out of generators, the same thing with books made out of generators, is reskinning of stories that have already been told. It's not made by a person. But again, tell me, who is the audience for this? If somebody can't be bothered to write their own story, then what is the purpose of freaking reading it? Because they didn't even want to read it one time. There's no effort put into it. So this is just another way for people to make money. It's a scam meant to sell you garbage over and over and over again with minimal effort put into it. We already complained about accountants running the movie studios. This is a continuation of the same thing where it's minimize cost, maximize profit by just selling reskins of the same stories. And the same exact dialogue. Elias Toufexis, who is mainly known for their role as Adam Jensen in Deus Ex series and Sam Coe in Starfield, I loved Deus Ex, has tweeted their frustration over Microsoft's announcement saying, "I've said it for years now, if you want to start voice acting career, don't bother." The actor continues, "All those jobs of nameless background NPCs that gave us all our start in the industry, they're all going away. I'm already bitter." Shelby Young, who recently played Hammy in Horizon Call of the Mountain and various characters in Star Wars Jedi Survivor, also shared their concern with Microsoft plans. "This is scary. Recording NPCs is how many voice actors cut their teeth in the industry." The tweet continues, "This will make it even harder for new talents to break into video games, which, to be honest, can already be pretty difficult to begin with. I'm worried for game devs and writers as well. This news has got to be a huge disappointment and alarming for video game developers, writers, and voice actors alike. It's especially disheartening considering how much praise an NPC conversation in Spider-Man 2 received just recently. Shortly after the Insomniac sequel's release, the internet collectively agreed that Spider-Man 2 has one of the best pieces of NPC dialogue ever, a conversation that may not have existed without the use of real actors and writers. So you will always lose humanity, lose spontaneity, lose character by doing this. But I don't want it to feel like there is no hope, because there is definitely hope, because your thing, as long as you are putting the work in and you are being different, this is a chance for a renaissance to get away from these big companies by being a person and a group and a team that actually cares about what you're doing. Now, it's funny that this all comes down to the same thing every single time. Freaking paying the authors for what you're doing. Freaking paying the artists for what you're doing. AI investors horrified at the suggestion that they pay artists for using their copyright. And we have a bunch of examples of this specifically. Let me pull this in. It always comes down to money. But having courted billions of dollars in investments and become an unstoppable juggernaut of hype, the generative AI industry should be sitting pretty. But it's deathly paranoid about one thing, actually having to compensate artists for training AI models using their copyrighted work. Exemplifying those fears, the venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz, one of the biggest financial backers of AI, warned in comments to the U.S. Copyright Office that the new regulation on training data will significantly disrupt investment into technology and the expectations around it. So, like, they're worried that they might have to pay artists because they're like, well, we're stealing from artists and we're not going to be able to afford the stuff that we're stealing if you make us pay for it. And you want to tell me that it's not stolen? That's like going, oh no, don't come into my house and see all this stuff I stole from Gucci and then like tell me I have to pay for it because I couldn't. My guy. No, you have to pay. And I have to give it back as well. The bottom line is, the firm wrote, imposing the cost of actual or potential copyright liability on the creator of AI models will either kill or significantly hamper their development. So their argument is, well, it's going to hurt our business model, so don't like charge us, but we're totally fine with hurting artists and stealing all from artists so they don't get paid, but don't make us pay anything. So on the other hand, the bottom line is the bottom line, and pesky technicalities like copyright laws shouldn't stand in the way of that. According to VC firm, gobbling up copyrighted content is, quote, the only way of training large language models, the technology that offers chatbots like OpenAI ChatGPT, and the industry should be entitled to a whole lot of that content too. Quote, something approaching the entire corpus of the written word, Andreessen Horowitz argued, and an enormous cross-section of all the publicly available information ever published on the internet. They think that they have a right to not just anything that you've ever created, anything that you've ever thought, anything that you've ever said, but just like you as a person. This kind of goes back to the SAG-AFTRA stuff where Hollywood also thinks that it just has a right to you as a person. Like your likeness, your life history, your everything. It's incredible entitlement. And the fact that they don't see you as a person, they just see you as a commodity to be used and sold. Is that getting through to any of the AI bros here that this is what you see? But then again, I don't really expect that because it seems like a lot of the AI bros, when they're talking, don't see humans as human either. There's a lot of hate and a lot of disdain specifically for humanity, which is frankly quite disturbing. An expedient line of thinking because the firm warns or admits LLMs have already ingested so much copyrighted material that companies would have to shell out tens of hundreds of billions of dollars a year in royalty payments, which only the biggest corporations could afford. So does that not tell you that there is a problem with how they're training these models, with how this information is coming through, that they would owe this much money for the kind of content that they have stolen? If the arguments sound specious to you, wait till you hear out Andreessen Horowitz's biggest trump card, national security, because folks, the country really needs to be a leader in the tech industry that gives us AI thirst trap influencers. The best way to use the United States' current leadership in the burgeoning AI industry is by rushing to pass legislation that undermines a long-standing and principled approach to copyright law that has made this country both a creative and technological leader. We cannot afford to be outpaced in areas like cybersecurity, intelligent operations, modern warfare, all of which are being transformed by this frontier technology. It's undoubtedly a consideration that will be at the back of lawmakers' minds. Will a countenance hampering one of the U.S.'s hottest industries with stringent copyright protections that competing countries may forego? But if AI investors want the U.S. CO to look the other way so companies can skirt paying due compensation, it faces some staunch opposition. High-profile authors are suing companies like OpenAI, and a barrage of other lawsuits against the tech may ultimately decide the fate of the industry, however long it takes. And this is going back to how many times I've seen in the arguments from the AI bros that it is not theft. It is clearly theft. Everything that you look at and how it builds its data set and how it's supposed to treat things and what it's doing to copyright, which includes one of the things with copyright is how does this affect the marketplace of the original item that is being infringed on? And if it hurts the marketplace around that item, it is a copyright infringement. Going over here to Michael Connolly, I've been ripped off like a victim of a crime. So in previous updates to generative AI, we also saw that there was a data set called Books 3 that had over 180,000 copyrighted books materials from authors that are currently alive, that are currently under copyright, including Stephen King, including George R.R. Martin, including Sarah Silverman. There are so many books that have been just sucked into this thing and then put into training that includes the copyright pages. This author has racked up 85 million book sales with Harry Bosch and the Lincoln Lawyer. Now he's fighting to stop ChatGPT from writing sequels in his name. Again, show me in any logical way how this is not theft, how this is not counterfeit, how this is not fraudulent. You can't. You just can't. If you argue that, you're just dishonest. Quote, it's early morning in Los Angeles, and from his study, Michael Connolly has a view of the Hollywood Hills. It's a vision of quiet serenity, far from the fast-paced thrills of his 38 best-selling novels and the television hit they have spawned. His two protagonists, the LAPD detective Hieronymus Harry Bosch, and the defense attorney Mickey Haller, now also the star of a Netflix series, The Lincoln Lawyer, rarely experience such peace. But now the 67-year-old author's life has inched a little closer to his fiction. In September, Connolly filed a class action lawsuit against OpenAI, the company behind the generative AI app ChatGPT. Alongside the Authors Guild, the U.S.'s biggest trade union for writers, and 17 other plaintiffs, including Jonathan Franzen, George R.R. Martin, John Grinsom, and Jodi Picoult, he is suing the company for copyright infringement. Connolly makes a clear distinction between his pursuit of justice and that of his lawyer character. Quote, the lawsuit I'm involved in is not criminal, although one of the reasons I'm involved in it is because I feel like I've been ripped off, a victim of a crime. Connolly was horrified by the extent of ChatGPT's intrusion into his life's work. Not only had the software absorbed Connolly's work, it revealed that it could use all of the hundreds of thousands of words to write a new Harry Bosch or Lincoln Lawyer novel. Any other reader must pay for Connolly's books. ChatGPT, he alleged, just took it for nothing. That's my creative product. Through this new advancement in technology, I've lost consent, I've lost control, and I've lost compensation. Before our interview, I asked ChatGPT to write a scene with Harry Bosch. It obliged. Detective Harry Bosch leaned against the old brick wall, his eyes fixed on the crime scene before him. The air was heavy with the stench of death, a familiar companion in his years on the force. If that evocation of a wall is anything to go by, I don't think that we'll be seeing ChatGPT shortlisted for any prizes. Although, looking at this year's Booker shortlist, who knows? But for Connolly, who hasn't tried the experiment himself, that's not the point. I don't think that it'll ever replace writers, but that doesn't mean that it's not a threat. Someone could say, write me a Harry Bosch novel, but change the name, and it would be very derivative of what I've done. That bothers me. The author wants to make it clear that he's no Luddite. I'm no Mr. I hate AI. There are plenty of useful applications for AI, healthcare, education, even driving. I just want to be able to work and live and create in a certain world where I'm not threatened by that being taken away from me. I question where AI is helpful with healthcare, when healthcare is so many overlapping things like symptoms in order to discover what is actually wrong with somebody. I also hate the fact that you have to apparently say that you're not a Luddite if you're against this, because that's one of the insults that they make, but it's not really an insult because it's just dismissing. It's just somebody saying the same thing, basically similar to saying you're a racist, you're a sexist, you're a homophobe, you're whatever, so that they can dismiss you. They take an extreme, don't listen to you, label you, and then say, meh. That's all that it is. Connolly spent 14 years as a journalist, mainly as a crime reporter, before turning it to a full-time career as a novelist, but still, he has a nose for a story. His new book, Resurrection Walk, was finished long before he got involved in the lawsuit against OpenAI, but the ethical questions around AI form an important part of the novel. AI is used to recreate a crime, and that recreation differs from the official line, sparking a debate. What I put into a book, I hope, is a sense that AI is here to stay and that it can be beneficial to humanity. I'll benefit from AI at some point in my life, but not where it takes my work and puts it into an AI blender. Connolly became interested in crime at the age of 16 when he saw a man stash a gun in a bush and run away. He reported the incident to the police and was asked to identify the culprit from a lineup. He devoured his mother's Agatha Christie novels, which were scattered all over the house, then at 19 discovered Raymond Chandler. He mentions one chapter from The Long Goodbye in which Marlowe drives around LA in a very sardonic and cynical tones describe the city. It inspired Connolly. I read that chapter a few times a year. It was Connolly's childhood reading that prompted him to join another campaign, PEN, America's campaign against book bans in Florida, to which he has donated $1 million. The organization recorded 3,362 cases of book bannings in 2022-2023, with 40% of those in Florida, where Connolly grew up and still owns a home. If you want to see what some of those books are, I did a video series this year of going through all of the ALA banned books lists, top banned books, whatever. From 2022 and 2021. Next year, when they release the 2023 list, I'll go over the 2023 lists, and I may go further back and do 2020, 2019. I don't know. But I did go over all of the books listed in 2021, 2022, did an in-depth description of the synopsis and my thoughts on them. If you're curious about them, you could see those. But if you're also curious to see what the books look like yourself, I always recommend reading them. I can only give you what I see and then what I absorb as the most important things to know about the story. One of the many novels caught up in the Americans controversy is Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. I think that was earliest back on like 2019, 2018. It has not been on the list for the last couple of years. I'm pretty sure. Criticized for its use of racial slurs, Connolly read it when he was 12, sheltering from the Florida humidity in the school library. The novel changed his life. If I hadn't read To Kill a Mockingbird, I wouldn't have become a writer. I wouldn't be sitting here for you right now. I hate the propaganda that's around the banned books list. It's different people, I feel like, going after, The Hate You Give, This Book Is Gay, Beyond Magenta, Genderqueer than the people going after To Kill a Mockingbird. But I also don't think that Sarah J. Maas or Colleen Hoover belong in schools, and those are also on the banned lists in different places. But that's a different video entirely. You tell me if you think Colleen Hoover belongs in a school library, though, because I would love to hear your argument on that one. So anyway, there's that. You have authors that are being taken from specifically that are saying, I feel like I'm a victim of a crime. I feel like I'm being ripped off. And so I want to talk about then the cost thing. It comes up a lot that they're talking about the cost. Seeing AI advocates and investors change talking points over time as they lack impact has been fascinating. It went from fair use, very unlikely, to it's inspired like people, it doesn't, to the honest, if we have to pay for the works that we stole, we won't make money, which is what we just saw in that article. But it's not about paying people. It's about literally them making money and using other people's labor, other people's time, other people's efforts to maximize their benefit and not pay you for it. DreamWorks co-founder Jeff Katzenberg says AI will cut costs of animation movies by 90% within the next 3 years. In the good days, you might need 500 artists and years to make a world-class animated movie. I don't think that it'll take 10% of that 3 years from now. But I also don't think personally that you're going to make world-class animated movies without people behind them. You're going to make regurgitated garbage. And you might come across takes like this. Don't believe them. Budgets for illustrations, book covers, comics, etc. have either remained stagnant for nearly 40 years or decreased. And there's an image here that says, fact is, it's become far too costly to hire an artist to draw. The price has more than tripled in a few years. An AI generator still can't do art as well or as nicely as a real artist, so the real art will always be preferred if you can afford any. Don't be a modern Luddite. This is such a lie. There are so many affordable, incredible artists that are not hard to find. This is one of my absolute favorite artists to commission, you know, aside from Monty and aside from Sam. Anissa Burnell. She has done all of my Bodymore art so far, and she is insanely talented. She is also insanely affordable, where you can have budget $30 to $75, refined $150 to $40, commercial. Contact her and she will help you and work with you for the commercial license so that you could use her imagery for merch, for book covers, for anything. She is so incredibly hardworking. She is so kind. And so to say, oh, stuff is too expensive to pay for, bro. $30 to $75 for this. Don't even. What you're doing is you're making excuses to not have to look, to not have to pay people, and to not respect people. Because what the bottom line comes down to for a lot of this, when I see the conversation about commissioning people, is the people that are defending AI, saying that it is too expensive to hire an artist, are just disrespectful. They have no ability to respect or be responsible with other people. They do not want to talk to other people, and so they would rather just punch them in the face and steal art than actually just be courteous. Corey Brickley's data on various illustration budgets over time. We got this. Median US rent going up. Editorial 1/4 page budget going down. RJ Palmer's survey on what artists on Twitter make per year. Under 20K, for the most part. For context, concept artists in the entertainment industry generally make 1.5K a week minimum, and 3K a week rates are pretty common for higher level work. Of course, concept artists are one of the higher paying art jobs, but man doing art full time, living in the US, and only making under 20K a year is not right. Artists need to come together and force the rates higher. Generative AI is already taking white collar jobs. An ingenious study by this group of people here looked at what happened on a huge online freelance platform after ChatGPT launched last year. And you've got a direct correlation, the percentage change in monthly freelance jobs and earnings. So to say that it is not affecting, not taking jobs, it's taking jobs all over the place, from all over the place. Another example of this would be the scandal where over Thanksgiving, official Walt Disney World actually posted a generative AI image on their official account. Are you going to tell me that Walt Disney does not have the money? So they make so many excuses to not pay artists because of money. The AI bros. It is not about the money. It is about suppressing. It is about theft. So very briefly, November 17th, Sam Altman was ousted as OpenAI CEO. I'm not even going to cover this article. You can read it in the description if you really, really want to. Because OpenAI board in discussion with Sam Altman to return as CEO literally the next day, November 18th. November 19th, last night, after we learned OpenAI was trying to get Altman back and that the board was waffling, Chief Strategy Officer Jason Kwan told employees that the company is optimistic about Altman returning and would share more Sunday morning, meaning a bunch of OpenAI employees took to X to voice their support for Altman with heart emojis. Altman, holding talks with the company just days after he was ousted, indicates that OpenAI is in a state of free fall without him. Hours after he was axed, Greg Brockman, OpenAI's president and former board chair, resigned, and two have been talking to friends and investors about starting another company. A string of senior researchers also resigned on Friday, and people close to OpenAI say that more departures are in the works. By November 19th, OpenAI now has its third CEO in one weekend, with former Twitch boss Emmett Shear taking over. Following that, on November 20th, Reed Southern, who's done a great job following this, has done great works talking about AI generative stuff, followed up with saying 735 out of 778 people had resigned from OpenAI because of the Altman thing, and everybody was in open rebellion. That was the week before Thanksgiving. And then you have OpenAI posting on the 22nd that we have now reached an agreement for principal with Sam Altman to return to OpenAI as CEO with the new initial board of Brett Taylor, Larry Summers, and Adam D'Angelo. We are collaborating to figure out the details. Thank you so much for your patience on this. So Sam was out and then back within a week. So the OpenAI fiasco was due to conflict of interest dispute between the nonprofit researchers and Sam Altman's desire for personal gain. It turns out that he's a predatory win-at-all-costs lunatic. Who would have thunk it? Following that, we're going back to more theft. It's more theft, and they know it. And it's just the big guys that want to be able to steal from you, and people that want to stop you from being able to benefit from your own labors. But as soon as your copyrights are stolen by the big guys, they're going to use it to shut you down. And you see it here as Disney asked Microsoft to prevent users from infringing on its trademark. So even they see it as infringement. Don't believe anybody that tells you otherwise. Tributes and parodies of Pixar-style characters generated by Microsoft's Bing AI image tool have drawn the attention of Walt Disney Company's legal counsel. The concern stems over the recent social media trend in which people prompt images of pets in a Pixar style, and the issue, though, wasn't the artwork itself, but rather Bing's generation of the trademark infringing Disney Pixar logo. The Financial Times reported that Disney requested Microsoft to prevent its users from infringing on trademarks. In response, the tech giants blocked the term Disney from its image generator, which is powered by DALL-E 3 technology. After tweaks, Microsoft has restored the prompt. According to FT Report, Microsoft's AI generating images are still pumping out a jumbling version of Disney Pixar logo, and it remains unclear whether this new version is adequately addressing Disney's concerns. Microsoft told FT that there is current level of viability that may return different results from time to time as we continue to refine the safety systems. Additional artists, celebrities, and organizations can request to limit the creation of images associated with their names and brands. So, it's infringement, but you have to catch it, and it's already still out there. That shows you how bad this is. More concerning for Disney is the offensive AI Pixar meme, in which Microsoft Bing users create offensive film ideas in a generic CG style that many people associate with Pixar films. This trend is much more difficult to shut down because it is near certainty that Bing image creator has already been trained on copyrighted Disney and Pixar artwork. Further complicating the matter, the text and Disney Pixar logos for the meme are being physically inserted by their users after the central image has been generated. Offensive Disney and Pixar parodies have always been lurking in the corners of the internet, but AI tech has made it so anyone can generate such pieces in mere seconds. No skill required. Ooh, guys. Taking a hit there. The proliferation of such materials will only grow as AI systems engage in widespread theft of intellectual property belonging to others, and no immediate solution is on the horizons for how Disney or anyone else can put a stop to the misuse of their trademarks. So continually, this is theft. People are stealing, people are misusing things. That is all that it is. And as we switch from, oh, it's not theft to, oh, we can't pay everybody. How are we ever going to find everybody to pay them? We can't afford to pay them, so we should just let it go. It's the, oh, the damages are done, so what are you going to do? No, you're going to stop. You're going to stop. I'm never going to agree with you. And if you don't stop, I'm never going to agree with you. So, like, we're at an impasse. It's whatever. Meanwhile, as Microsoft is, you know, respecting its bros where it elbows its buddies Disney and everybody else, it's going to still abuse everyone else. The little guys, you know, as long as the big guys don't complain to them, they're fine. Microsoft to bring generative AI design tools to Xbox devs. This kind of goes back to where we saw it earlier with bringing them in for the career things, so I will keep that, just referencing that. Some developers are hesitant toward generative AI trends, in part because, you know, you can't copyright anything. This is all still up in the air. How much of it can even be used? And there's been a lot of issue already with people using copyrighted voices, with people using voice actors without their consent. And so there's also the fear of replacing humans with robots or with the generative content. You can almost always find people. It can be hard to find people for free, that's for sure, because you got to find the right time, you got to find the right gear, you got to all of this other stuff. But you will always have a better product, a better story, a better creation with people involved, because that's what art is. Further on the shutting down of businesses, you have CanStock Photos, a photography company, shut down, citing digital photography and generative AI as the reason that it was shut down. So again, more white-collar jobs, more small businesses shut down. As if that's not enough, they are so desperate for validation and for acceptance and or for making money that you've also got somebody selling a how-to draw book filled with non-useful advice and AI-generated art everywhere. Like, how does this teach anybody to draw? It doesn't. And why would you create an art book on how to draw without actually showing people how to draw? It's validation, it's fraud. It's fraudulent. This person is not an artist and they're selling their art book. So that's all that you can say. More theft. Every time I see the AI fanatic vulture capitalists talk about how AI will revolutionize content creation and make everyone more money, I see people who already make money with content creation incomes being destroyed by AI. So who is actually making the money here? And if you go to the tweet that they're talking about, Google is going to save you a click route. So it's so frustrating. So people that have actually put the time and effort into building these game guides, into building these walkthroughs, are then having the generative AI of Google grab it from their websites and then put it there, so then they don't get the money, but Google gets the money. You see, it's not just affecting little things. And you don't know what it's censoring out either. Come over here. ChatGPT 5 has started. OpenAI hunting for quality data includes private data sets for company for ChatGPT. LLM's only one piece of AGI puzzles. More pieces need to be figured out. See product as intelligence in the cloud. API ChatGPT just channels. GPTs are the starting point for autonomous agents. Will get better and more capable over time. We'll need to fundraise again. And sounds like soon. 10 billion already spent, still unprofitable due to training costs. And the company is also working on ChatGPT, the next generation of AI model, Altman said, although he did not comment to a timeline for its release. It will require more data to train on, which Altman said would come from a combination of publicly available data sets on the internet as well as proprietary data from companies. So, imagine ChatGPT and Sam Altman purchasing the proprietary information from your insurance company to train his system. You didn't consent to that, but I bet they put it in the terms and conditions so that they can make more money. That's cute. Now, one of the things that's bothered me a lot about the generative AI crowd and the AI bros, and it's one of the reasons that I focused on the mindset and the heart of these things when I talked about it before in my Shad video, because the way that you act toward the generative AI stuff, but towards stealing from people, the meanness involved in the heart of this carries over into other ways of acting, and it's poisonous to the heart. It hurts you, it hurts other people, it corrodes the soul. And sorry if that gets a little bit more metaphysical, but this is a deeper issue than just theft. This is a crisis of the heart, a crisis of how you treat humanity, how you treat your brothers and sisters and your neighbors. And going over here to Reed Southern, he specifically talks about this concept with, I've complained about all of the identity theft over on Civitai before. Now they're literally featuring and encouraging bounties for non-consensually replicating people, and I think we all know the reason why. Why is no one doing anything about this? I talked about the theft of identity before, about the targeting of Sam Yang from Sam Does Art. They did this, what, a year ago almost? Because he was one of the first bigger people talking about, hey, this is theft, don't do this. And so to get back at him, they specifically trained the generative AI on his art to get at him. So over here in the original tweet from Joseph Cox, we have Civitai, an online marketplace for sharing AI models that enables the creation of non-consensual sexual images of real people, has introduced a new feature that allows users to post bounties. These bounties allow users to ask the Civitai community to create AI models that generate images of specific styles, compositions, and specific real people, and reward the best AI model that does so with a virtual currency users can then buy with real money. So, encouraging the creation of pornography of other people and the theft of other people through bounties. Like, when I talk about we need to discuss the downside of capitalism, the extremeness of capitalism, this is one of the things that needs to be discussed, because people act like any criticism of capitalism means that you reject capitalism. But then when you let capitalism run rampant and do all of the things where money, where personal income is the only thing that matters, this is what you get. You get corruption. You get abuse. Because all that matters is you and yours and building your own capital. And that's at the expense of others. That's why I say this is a crisis of the heart, a crisis of humanity. Because you, as an individual, need to choose that money does not matter more than your brothers and sisters. That's not saying that you can't care about money, but that's saying that you value them more than to put up bounties to either steal specific art styles or create porn of them so that you can get money. That's disgusting. But there's nothing that you can do other than appealing to the heart, because that's what this is. And if they go, don't care, you're just a tool for me to use, there's nothing to do there. As is common on the site, many of the bounties posted on Civitai since the feature was launched are focused on recreating the likeness of celebrities and social media influencers, almost exclusively women. But 404 Media has seen at least one bounty for a private person who has no significant public online presence. So creating pornography of specifically women, targeting women. So do I even need to say what that is with no consent? And then doing it to private individuals as well. So revenge porn, basically, of individuals. Cool. I am very afraid of what this can become. For years, I have been facing problems with the misuse of my image, and this has certainly never crossed my mind. Michelle Alives, an Instagram influencer who has a bounty on Civitai, told 404 Media, I don't know what measures I could use since the internet seems like a place out of control. The only thing that I think about is how it could affect me mentally, because this is beyond hurtful. And imagine how many people are doing this with children, with young people, with people under 18. Because you know it's there. Don't pretend that it's not. And if you're wondering why I went so hard on Shad Brooks for his takes on generative AI, this is one of the reasons why. He is one of the biggest channels and biggest proponents right now of generative AI with so much spread. And he has been not just irresponsible, but he has been mean, caustic, ripping down other people, ripping down artists specifically, because he is not one. And then using it to bolster his platform. All he sees is a way to make money. All he sees is a way to get stature. And it shows when he talks about monetization. And it shows when he makes another channel on YouTube just so that he can get monetization on generative AI garbage. It's all about building profile, ripping other people down, stealing. And it's a corruption of the soul. All that I've seen of him recently is a continuation of being a jerk, of being a bad person through this. And then you continue to get the causticness, like Joe Lick here. Most of the artists upset by AI are only upset because they are either mediocre or extortionate. They realize they no longer have a power that they once did, and that scares them, and rightfully so. Don't justify their vitriol and outrage. Are you saying that Michael Connelly is mediocre or extortionate? He's just writing books. Are you saying that George R.R. Martin is mediocre or extortionate because he's just writing books and movies? At this point, Anissa, who is unbelievably reasonable in price. There are so many artists who are unbelievably reasonable in price. And I just went over the different prices for you. And you want to say extortionate? Why? Because they won't work for you for free? Is that the problem? Because they don't just say, yes, master, when you say do this thing and then they hand it to you. Are you joking? I've seen enough people who are just angry that they say, hey, I want you to do art for me and do it for free. And the artist says no. They don't owe you anything. It's not extortionate to say, hey, I would like to get paid for my labor. The insults are continuous towards the artists as they steal. It's these elitists shoving their boots into the faces of the working class, of the creators, of people that just do it for fun. And don't get me wrong. Shad Brooks is an elitist. From what I've seen of his personality over this year, he is an elitist. Ed Newton Rex, who said, I resigned from my leading role at the audio team at Stability AI because I don't agree with the company's opinion that training generative AI models on copyrighted works is fair use. First off, I want to say that there are a lot of people at Stability AI who are deeply thoughtful about these issues. I'm proud that we were able to launch a state-of-the-art AI music generation product trained on licensed training data, sharing the revenue from the models with right holders. I'm grateful to my colleagues who worked on this with me and who supported our team, and particularly to EMAD for giving us the opportunity to build and ship it. I'm thankful for my time at Stability, and in many ways, I think that they take a more nuanced view on the topic than some of their competitors. But despite this, I wasn't able to change the prevailing opinion on fair use at the company. This was made clear when the U.S. Copyright Office recently invited public comments on generative AI and copyright, and Stability was one of the many AI companies to respond. Stability's 23-page submission included this on its opening page, quote, "We believe that AI development is an acceptable, transformative, and socially beneficial use of existing content that is protected by fair use." For those unfamiliar with fair use, this claims that training an AI model on copyrighted works doesn't infringe on the copyright in those works, so it can be done without permission and without payment. This is a position that is fairly standard across many of the large generative AI companies and other big tech companies building these models. It's far from a view that is unique to Stability, but it is a position that I disagree with. I disagree because one of the factors affecting whether the act of copyright is fair use, according to Congress, is, quote, "the effect of the use upon the potential market for the value of the copyrighted work." Today's generative AI models can clearly be used to create works that compete with the copyrighted works that are trained on. So I don't see how using copyrighted works to train generative AI models on this nature can be considered fair use. But setting aside the fair use argument for a moment, since fair use wasn't designed with generative AI in mind, training generative AI models in this way is wrong. Companies worth billions of dollars are, without permission, training generative AI models on creators' works, which are then being used to create new content that in many cases can compete with the original works. I don't see how this can be acceptable in a society that has set up the economics of the creative arts such that creators rely on that copyright. To be clear, I am a supporter of generative AI. It will have many benefits. That's why I've worked on it for 13 years, but I can only support generative AI that doesn't exploit creators by training models which may replace them on their works without permission. I'm sure I'm not the only person inside of generative AI companies who doesn't think that the claim of fair use is fair to creators. I hope others will speak up either internally or in public so that companies realize that exploiting creators can't be the long-term solution in generative AI. So here you even have somebody who is working in Stable Diffusion, one of Shad's favorite go-to companies, saying it is exploitation of the creators. And it is. We see it proof again and again and again, and the only people that are saying it is not exploitive and it is not theft are the people who are gaining from it, who then just say, just believe me, bro, it's fine. It's not theft. Well, screw you. That's what it always comes down to. Coming over here to Glenn Tarrant, art was always democratized. Nobody was stopping you from learning to make art but yourself. This is also an argument that comes up a lot. Quote, "The anti-AI artists thought that AI art was going to be just a fad, and yet more tools keep popping up and getting better. Instead of using it as a showcase to showcase their creativity, they castigate it because they are afraid that it will take away their livelihood. Stuff like this is just mind-blowing, but what's really mind-blowing is that by next year, we'll have tools that are even more insane than this, limited only by our imaginations." No, it's a trick. It's a sleight of hand to make you think that you have freedom when you're actually in a cage and you can only put through what they want you to see. As we saw in an article earlier, when Microsoft said, or when Pixar said, hey, take my thing out of this, Microsoft did. They can filter whatever they want. You are limited by the use of this thing because you are not creating whatever it is you want to see. And I have especially learned this in this last year of drawing more, where I have been able to develop my mind's eye to see scenes, to see characters, to watch my characters' personalities grow through their work. Come back in December or January to see a showcase of everything that I drew this year and how the personalities grew out of the writing, the drawing. And that's also what I love about looking at my friends' works or looking at the works that I commission, is the personality set into those characters through their art style, through their history, through their emotions, through their life. That is what is unique about art. Going over here to Chomba Bupe, recent papers support that current artificial intelligence paradigm, deep learning, is based on compression. Transformers and diffusion models encode compressed versions of the original data. AI is currently just glorified compression. Again, more proof and evidence of this being theft. The multiple head self-attention operator compresses the representations by implementing an approximate gradient descent step on the coding rate of the features, and the subsequent multi-layer perception sparsifies the features. Both diffusion and transformer models have now been shown to be very closely related to the associated memory network, the Hopfield network, which stores patterns as deep in an energy landscape. I will link this in the description down below if you want to check out these papers for yourself. It's just more things saying these are not original things. You are not thinking out of the box. You are not being released from anything. You are. If you're not a fake person right here that is pushing this, which it's very likely that that's a fake person trying to astroturf things. But if you're part of this, you're part of the theft. You're not, and you're put in a box of regurgitation of other people's original works. Interesting post here from OpenAI model employees claiming that all large language models reach the same endpoint regardless of the training strategies or clever tricks. This is, of course, what the bitter lesson teaches us, but useful to get an up-to-date confirmation that it still holds true. The it in AI models is the data set. So as of June 10th, 2023, I've been at OpenAI for almost a year now. In that time, I've trained a lot of generative models, more than anyone really has any right to train, as I've spent these hours observing the effects and twerking various models, configurations, and hyperparameters. One thing that has struck me is the similarities between all of the training runs. It's becoming awfully clear to me that these models are truly approximating their data sets to an incredible degree. What that means is not only that they learn what it means to be a dog or a cat, but that the interstitial frequencies between distribution that doesn't matter, like what photos humans are likely to take or words humans commonly write down. What this manifests as is trained on the same datasets for long enough, pretty much every model with enough weight and training time converges to the same point. Sufficiently large diffusions, convu unsets, produce the same images as VIT generators. AR sampling produces the same images as diffusion. This is surprising observation. It implies that model behavior is not determined by architect, hyperparameter, or optimized choices. It's determined by your data sets and nothing else. So again, you're just going to get, you're not getting out of a box. You're just going to get the same thing over and over again. And the longer it's used, the more training is used, it's going to come to a finer point of doing an average where everybody sees the exact same thing. It's training you to be like everybody else, to think like everybody else, to never see outside the box. Just for a break in this. Recently, PewDiePie said that he was learning how to draw, and we got the hot takes of Hitler was also an artist. That's proof enough that AI art is the correct line. Insanity. Neil Turkowitz says current LLMs are trained on data sets that would take 20,000 years for a human to read, but we are told by apologists for theft that AI learns the same way as humans. Funny enough, I don't know any humans that have lived 20,000 years old to be 20,000 years old. So obviously they don't learn like humans because humans don't do that, but humans also don't generally have photographic memory. That's not to say there are no photographic memory humans, but those are the exceptions. The largest theft of intellectual property and human rights violations in human history is not innovation. From this post from the Row House Artistry, the performance of generative AI is almost entirely dependent on datasets. Generation is just a name, but in reality, it is restoration and synthesis of a huge amount of data collected without permission, because individual data cannot be deleted. If it falls under a foreign regulation, complete deletion will be required. The largest theft of intellectual property and human rights violations in human history, more than 10 class action lawsuits in just 1 year. Finally, one of the last things I'm going to cover today here, again from Reed, because he is a super player, is have you ever wanted to pretend that you're painting but don't want to learn anything about it or do any real work? Have you ever wanted to sabotage your own creativity or growth? Look no further, because they've created the program to do just that. And the initial person deleted their tweet, but don't worry, Reed's got you. Martin decided to take his AI painting video down, so for archival purposes, here it is. And they have created a program to doodle on one side and the AI generator will guess what you're doing on the other side so that you don't ever actually have to learn it. Now, I've taken a couple of online drawing classes, and one of the first things that they tell you is that it's like 20% sketching and 80% details. The details are where your personality really comes in. And I get that it is so hard because I'll sit here with my drawing pad and I'll start drawing and I will hate it because I'm sketching stuff in. And it really is when the details start coming in that it starts looking like I want it. The one that I always think of specifically is the Michi with the black dress and the flying hair, because the sketch was just so bad to me. And I almost gave up on it so many times because I couldn't get her lips right. But I am still proud of how it turned out. I'm not where I would like to be writing-wise, drawing-wise, but I am still happy with how it turned out, and you have to not give up on yourself. But if you do this, you shoot yourself in the foot of developing your own skill set, which you do have. You just have to put time into it. But a lot of people don't want to put the time in and don't want to feel like failures because they don't want to look at that struggle. They don't want to feel that struggle. But I'm sorry, as cliche as it is, art is pain. And anything that matters, you will spend time suffering before you get good. And even when you get good, you will spend time suffering. We got Javi Lopez saying, this is the video AI haters tried to cancel, created by Martin New Belong, who has just given me permission to republish it. He felt compelled to remove it due to the incredible amount of bullying that he was receiving. In his words, the amount of hate, negativity, and fear was staggering, and I didn't want to defend myself against it. It's funny how that sounds exactly like Shad Brooks. They all sound the same. Oh, the fear and negativity and meanness and hate. Oh. Meanwhile, you got your channel yelling at other people for their interests. Nothing outrages me more than the cancel culture and the unfair pressures on creators who are simply using AI tools and showing the world how they can learn these new creative processes. Again, we've covered how it's not a creative process, so I'm not going to get into that. But the buzzword usage of cancel culture, of hate, of all of this garbage to try to get you to have a political, emotional response is such a scam. His video is amazing. It shows how generative AI nowadays is much more than just writing a prompt, and how it will enable artists and designers to experiment in countless ways. Or you could just learn how to paint, like for real. Just learn how to do it yourself. Remember that it's not that artists, designers hate AI. AI haters are just a small group of people, and they don't speak for all artists. In fact, I know many more artists and designers who already use it daily, but they just don't make noise about it. So like, that's gaslighting. You're gonna say, oh, these people that I know that are artists are more valid than those people over there that are artists who have a different opinion. Again, just like Shad, who says, my opinions about my books and the people that like me are more valid than the opinions that don't like my book. No, they're all opinions. We got Miki VI saying, artists aren't dorks and can see beyond 2 days in the future. Cleaning up AI messes devalues you. So does the AI doing all of the work, because it 100% removes you from it. By being devalued, power and autonomy are being taken away from you and given to the AI, and you're probably exploiter superiors. And we got here more of this painting, and then the AI fixing it, and the AI sucking into it, and yeah, it's not a tool. And your personality is sucked out. Like, one of the things that I've really liked about drawing is I can see my personality and my character's personalities so much more clear through the drawings. It's taking time. But Marcella, like this, you can see her in this image. And this is one of the more recent images I've drawn of her. And it's not even done because I'm trying different methods of painting. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle. The final comment for the day comes from this. I really don't understand why people who have nothing to do with art, don't draw and have never drawn, and above all, don't derive pleasure from it, want to enter the world of art through AI at all costs. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people devalue art, say that they hate art, they hate drawing like you, Shad Brooks, saying that it is harder for writing books than to steal art. Devaluing what your brother does. So that you can, what, feel superior, feel good for yourself, make money, scam? You're an elitist, stealing. Everybody says so. Except for other people that are stealing. But all of the companies, all of the lawsuits say so. And just because something is legal doesn't mean that it's good. You should stop using that as an argument. Because guess what? Slavery was legal at some point. And for some of you, outlawing guns could become a thing. And you might say that that is wrong, which is then why you try to change the law, or you don't obey the law. You defy unjust laws. So, don't use, well, it's legal, as a reason why it's fine. because we got historical context and perceptions of the future in which something legal was not something that you wanted to do or that you thought was morally correct. But those are all of the updates that I currently have on conversation revolving around generative AI or different AI related things. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below on any or all of these things. I love bringing this content to you to like just discuss what's going on, and never give up on your art. You are the only one that can share your vision, and this stuff is going to go away because guess what? There's no future in a box that everybody else is just throwing paint at the wall in. You're the only one that can do you, and there will always be a place for your vision, your purpose, your ideas. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend, and don't die.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out?
The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross.
Is he in trouble?
We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him.
Cross isn't a killer. For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die. Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Way. Why? Did you do that? To the left, plain black letters read along the wall. You walked in the corridor. Once that ends, you chose the dark is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me. Where the hell am I? You're dead, Josephine. Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?